Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome CEO of Churchill Club, Karen Tucker.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. We're so glad that you're here. This is a pretty dandy crowd of over 400 people or so registered. And tonight we have so much to celebrate. First of all, this is the 10th edition of the Festival of Gadgets with Kara Swisher, Walt Mossberg, and Greg Harper. Thank you so much once again for putting this on for us. We really do appreciate it. We look forward to it all year long. Our tech celebrity guests are Ann Wojcicki, Susan Wojcicki, and Esther Wojcicki. Welcome, and thank you very much for being here. It is. It's Wojcicki-tastic. Tonight is also a special someone's birthday. Happy birthday, Kara Swisher. We appreciate you sharing your special day with us. In case you haven't heard the news, at the end of the year, the legendary All Things D run comes to a close, and new legends will be formed to take their place. Kara, Walt, and the All Things D team are launching the Revere digital platform, correct? With NBC Universal?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. So this too will allegedly be something to celebrate, and we can't wait to see what comes next in any case.
Allegedly.
Just speculation.
Just
Yeah.
speculation.
The sponsors that made this program possible are first and foremost Nuance Communications. Thank you so much, Nuance. And we also want to thank TiVo for their support. A very brief introduction to Churchill Club for our new guests in the room. We are Silicon Valley's premier independent business and technology-related forum since 1985, and we've been convening unique Silicon Valley conversations since then that will seek to encourage innovation, economic growth, and societal benefit. We put on about 40 programs a year, and where people can come together with one another and with new ideas. Our first program of the new year is on January 16 in Mountain View, where we proudly present 23-year-old Magnus Carlsen, the newly minted world chess champion. In conversation with PayPal co-founder and famed entrepreneur Peter Thiel, who is also a chess enthusiast, you'll not only get to hear and meet Magnus, but you'll also get to see him play chess with 6 people simultaneously while he is blindfolded. And then on January 30th in San Francisco, we'll look at the latest insights around data privacy with an amazing lineup of speakers. If you're tweeting tonight, please use the hashtag Churchill Club, and you'll find other Twitter codes in your printed program. I hope you've sharpened your pencils and ready to make your list. It's time now to turn the program over to Walt Mossberg. Let the show begin.
So thank you, Karen. I'm glad that of all those programs you listed, this will be the most serious, thoughtful, educational one of all those things. The one thing for those who haven't been here before to know is there's catcalling is encouraged, at least from the panel and from the audience too. We don't care. Right?
Yep, absolutely.
That's the deal. So when you do something for a living, sometimes you don't feel like doing too much of it. So I've just brought a few things that I have seen lately that I think are interesting, and they depend on this thing working. And I have never reviewed this thing, so I just assume it works. There it goes. So here's the first product. This is called the Jot. Now, some of you have seen the LiveScribe. I don't know how well this is showing up. Maybe I need to do it over here. Some of you have seen the LiveScribe pen, which has been, I think, pretty successful and well-known. Actually demoed at our D conference, which we're very, very proud of having run all these years, by the way. The LiveScribe pen does a lot of cool things, including audio tagging and other things. But one kind of downside of it is you have to use special paper. have to buy pads and things from them. How many use the LiveScribe pen? Or so you know that you have to buy that paper. This company has come up with a wireless pen and receiver that clips to any paper. This is just some paper I got from the hotel I'm staying at tonight. And with it, you can write, and it will be recorded on your device, in this case, an iPad mini. And I'm just going to, assuming this is all hooked up, I think I may have to, I have to turn the pen on, sorry. There's a power button here. Come on, pen, there we go. There we go. So let me, oh, it's not working very well, is it? I mean, you know, my attitude is if it doesn't work well, bad review. That's basically it. You're part of my test group. It is the Jot pen. There, it redeemed itself a little bit at the end there. So, and just to show you, yeah, I think that this particular audience is not in favor of me giving reviews to people that will sink their company, their new startup. So, you can see that there's just this little module, and it, I hope you can see it, and it clicks onto the top of, this is paper from the wonderful Garden Court Hotel in Palo Alto. So there you go. No special paper there. So that's one thing. Another thing I think is...
I have a question.
You have a question, Kara?
I have a question. Do you think people will use those things at all in any way whatsoever if they can
I
write
think
on
people who want to keep their notes on their tablets will.
Yeah, why don't they just do it on the tablets?
Some people would prefer to write on paper. There actually are people who love paper.
Okay, all right.
There are people like Greg Harper, who's the most gadget lunatic person you've ever met. We agree on that, right? Who carries a moleskin notebook.
Yeah, and it's got security.
Kara seems to have paper.
And it's
Right
got
Yeah.
expansion.
Wait, hold that object up again. What is that object?
It's made from a tree.
And do you own an Android device, an iOS device?
I do not own an Android device. I own an Apple device. I'm sorry.
Sitting between...
No, well,
I have a BlackBerry.
okay.
She has a BlackBerry. Oh, you're the one with the BlackBerry. Okay. Thank
so
heavens. Excuse me, I have to call a Smithsonian right now.
the issue I'm asking about is because on the iPad I use Evernote and stuff like that, but the writing still isn't very good. It's
Well,
very
it's
thick.
good on paper,
It's good
and
on
this
paper.
just transfers
Okay,
it.
all right.
Okay,
Thank you. Making a
different
point.
subject. So how many people love paying their cell phone bill? Even if you love your cell phone. And how many people, and this is not typical America, but I actually think this is much more widespread now in all kinds of cities and all kinds of professions. How many people spend, I don't know, most of their day in some form of Wi-Fi? Home, work, Starbucks, airport, wherever you are. So there's an upstart phone carrier in North Carolina called Republic Wireless. And they have taken a high-end, feature-rich phone, the Motorola Moto X. Can't remember who owns Motorola, but can anyone help me?
We can Google.
I think there's somewhere down the street.
Yeah.
Google. Not
Google.
far.
But this is not, basically they did a deal with Moto to take this phone and modify it. And it has all the features of the Moto X. For instance, you know, it'll take voice commands when the phone's sleeping. You can kind of twist your wrist and turn the camera on, which I just stupidly did. But here's what they've done. They've changed it so that it defaults at all times to Wi-Fi calling and to texting over Wi-Fi or over the internet. And they've done that right in the dialer. So you don't have to, let me get the speaker. What is it?
Okay, Google now.
Yeah, no, I know that command. That's not what I'm going for. I'm trying to connect to the Wi-Fi. It makes Wi-Fi phone calls, and if there's no Wi-Fi or you have gone out of Wi-Fi range, it falls back on cellular. It uses Sprint, buys minutes from Sprint, which is, some of you may know this is a big business for Sprint. And here's the cool thing. The handover is seamless. So if you're starting in your house on Wi-Fi and making a call, and you walk out of your house, you know, you're 100 feet or 200 feet, whatever it is, past the boundary of your house, and the Wi-Fi goes away, or it just gets their algorithm suggests it's too weak for the call to be any good, it just switches over to Sprint. And I did this time after time and time again when I was testing this with people. They couldn't even tell when the handover moment occurred. It's like a millisecond. What they actually do is establish the call in the cloud, and as they notice the Wi-Fi degrading, they set up a parallel cellular call, and the minute the Wi-Fi goes away, they just switch you to the cellular call, and you don't know it. But here's the other cool thing about it. It allows them, they only sell the phones unsubsidized, so this phone, which you can buy for as little as $50 with a 2-year contract, which will work out to $2,500 or some huge amount of money, they sell for $299. But you can buy a contract for as little as $5 a month, which is a Wi-Fi only contract, and then they have 3 other contracts. They're not contracts, I'm sorry, they're month-to-month prices. None of them are contracts. And the most expensive is $40, where you get LTE data as a fallback if you're not in Wi-Fi. And you know, the least you can get away with at Sprint, which is their partner carrier for a plan like that, is $80 a month. But the other really cool thing that I like about it is that you can change your plan on the fly on this phone. And somebody has to give me what the...
Speaker 13.
Speaker 13. Thank you. Let's see if we get it here. Okay, so you can change your plan on the fly with this phone, but I may not be able to do it because it says Wi-Fi is turned off. Let me see. Well, it's not their fault. It's probably my fault or the Churchill Club's fault, but here, can you guys read the screen? No, of course not. I'm sorry. Better? See where it says change my phone plan? All right, you're going to have to trust me. There's a menu. Twice a month you can change your phone plan. So let's say you bought the $5 a month all Wi-Fi plan, but you're going to go somewhere where there's not as much Wi-Fi as there normally is during your day in your normal life, and you want a cellular fallback. You want just calling and texting, which is I think $10 a month. You want 3G with data, you know, calling, texting, and 3G data, which is $25 a month. You want the LTE data, which is $40. You can do it, and you can do it twice a month. And then in about a month or 6 weeks, they're putting in a plan where you can change your phone number right on the phone, which I feel is a public service to drug dealers. So, does the iPhone let you do that? No. Republic Wireless, the drug dealer's phone of choice. What do? Turn that light off. It's too complicated a UI. Bad review. But thank you. So I turn that light off when I'm doing what? When I'm showing a lit up screen? Is that visible? All right, cool. So this is something I actually wrote about in my column that posted last night and was in this medium called Print today. This, believe it or not, is a glucose meter. I don't know how many people are diabetic or have a family member or friend who's diabetic. If you're diabetic, your doctor typically wants you, well, it's kind of out of focus there. Your doctor kind of wants you to test a droplet of your blood several times a day, but this is really a huge problem, I think, in our country. When you ask about why healthcare costs have not come down as much as they should or as high as they are, one of the reasons is we have this fabulous technology we all carry around with us, whether it's a Nexus 5 or an iPhone 5S or whatever it is. It's accurate, it's got 10 or 12 sensors on it, it does all this stuff. But the medical devices that people use to manage high blood pressure, diabetes, and increasingly other devices, they're even trying to figure out how some cancers can be managed for decades. The technology has to be approved by the FDA. They're very conservative, so they just take baby steps. But they did take one of these baby steps, and this eye health company, which is located near here, and they make some other devices like scales and blood pressure cuffs, has come out with this glucose meter. And you know, you put a test strip in. I'm not going to go through the whole test, but you put a test strip in, take a droplet of your blood, and it immediately beams it to an app on your smartphone. And I'll just show you, this is actually an app from a competing one called VarioSync, but it will give you an idea. Instead of just giving you one number, this app, oh good, you can see patterns. So the green is readings that were in range. The red, thank you. The red are readings that were, in this case, high. This is your average. It'll tell you your last sync. And then if you tap on it, you get more detail. You can email this to your doctor. This is on the other competing product I wrote about. iHealth has a cloud. Oddly, you can't invite people into that cloud. I'm guessing it may have something to do with federal rules, I don't know, of medical privacy, but you can still email your doctor like essentially a screenshot or a table of these results. And it shows you patterns, and it's just, you know, it's not a big deal to sync something via Bluetooth to your phone, except in the world of medical devices. And each baby step I try to chronicle because I think it's really important. So that's Bluetooth glucose meters. I also have this thing. You like it? What do you think? How does it?
It's a Merce.
It's a Merce. But there's a difference in this Merce. This is about $150. It's leather, I am told. And you can charge a phone in this. It has a battery, which no one has to see at the fancy party or dance or whatever you're at. And this particular one is outfitted, I don't know. Liz, do these come for Android or just for iPhone? Both, good. So this one happens to work with iPhone. It has a lightning connector, and you just put it in. You can feel it buzz a little, and your phone is charging. So at the end of the evening, when things might be getting interesting, and you don't want your phone to have no battery, your phone has battery.
So you can do Tinder like you like to do, Walter, right?
I can go to Tinder with this, yes. Perfect. Perfect. All in one, right here. It's a perfect thing. So that is my contribution for the evening. And
What's the
I'm going to clear as much of this
What?
away as I can.
Who makes the purse?
The Merce.
Oh, Liz, who makes the Merce? Who?
Everhurst.
All right, somebody makes it.
We'll get some names up on your site, on the site.
If only we were starting a new website next year, which is just an alleged fact, we could report we made that Merce.
Yes.
There. But somebody will report it or has reported it, I'm sure. So I'm going to turn it over to Ann Wojcicki.
Ann or Susan?
I'm Susan. I'm sorry.
Oh, Ann. Go
Oh,
ahead.
Ann. No, Ann. Okay, cool.
Okay. So I have my gadget here. It looks like an old phone that goes along with my BlackBerry, but it's actually not. So for those of you who know, I have a company called 23andMe, and 23andMe was all about the empowerment of crowdsourcing information for health purposes. And genetics is a big part of it, but was started really because we all want to live healthier, longer lives. And as much as we would like to effectively treat something like type 2 diabetes, I'd just rather not have it, period. If I ask Walt, would you rather have it or not have it, you'd probably just not want it. So if I ask people in the room, how many of you eat organic? Raise your hand. Okay, a lot of you. And you have no idea if it's actually beneficial for you. So it's controversial. We think it is. There's not really great data to prove that. So one of the things that I'm also really interested in is what is it that starts to go into your body? And I did something called the body burden test, where I was tested for 85 various chemicals known to be semi-toxic or hypothesized to be toxic. And I was found to have a lot of these chemicals. And I was actually the highest in fire retardants. And there's a lot of jokes that go with this. But I was, they came to me and they're like, oh, you must fly a lot in coach. And this was when I was in Wall Street. And I said, yes, in fact, I do. And they're like, oh, well, it's covered in, cloth seats are covered in fire retardants, and you're absorbing a ton of it in the air. And you absorb more from cloth than you do from leather. So this really got me interested in knowing what is my environment. So that led me to buy this. So I'm going to turn it on here.
And what else were you high in? And what other things were elevated?
I was high in mercury because I ate actually a lot of tuna fish sandwiches. And so I cut out all tuna, and then I was really high in fire retardants and a few other chemicals. But fire retardants, I was off the charts. There was about 20 of us that did it, like Sergey and Larry and Salar and others, and I was just like way off. And so made me feel like.
So you bought that thing that looks like it comes out of, Lost in Space. Right?
Yeah, so I bought this, and this measures the volatile organic compounds in your environment. And I bought this around the time that I was also buying a new car. And so I showed up with this. I take this out of my bag, and I walked into the Mercedes dealership. I said, I need to measure your car. And,
how thrilled were the Germans at this?
It was very high. So I actually was like, there's no way I'm buying this car. Like, your VOC is like, it's covered in this. And actually, I was just, because of this meeting, I started testing. The Tesla was actually quite low. I was very pleased. But we all want to know what's in your environment. And so I started going around and testing, and we started realizing things like we had this one couch in 23andMe that was really high. So what do? We put it in the lobby. And so now,
For all the guests.
so
And it begs the question, that's the FDA couch?
that is, I'm just saying, when visitors come, sometimes we let them sit there longer than others, depending how much we want them to absorb.
Ms. Jones from the FDA. Oh, have a seat.
Yes. But I also started testing people today in the office. So I started walking around and testing, and I discovered that the research team area actually had very few VOCs, and our kitchen and the customer service team had much higher VOCs. So that got me to start testing people, and I discovered that people who wear a lot of deodorant have very high VOCs. And people who have a lot of hairspray in their hair also have very high VOCs. So I propose that we test Kara and Walt and actually see who has higher VOCs here.
Can I just
test me too?
You can test.
Okay.
Can I just say the hairspray thing is not fair?
So I just need your armpit.
Okay.
Hold on a sec.
Am I fire retardant?
We'll see. Hold on, I pressed the wrong button. Oh, I have to go through all the. I have to say, this thing could use a little user interface work.
What kind of review would I give it?
All right. Hold on, I have to go through all the thing again.
Oh, no.
I think she's rigging it right now.
To make sure that you are.
That I have more bad whatever it is than Kara. That's what's going on.
And what are VOCs?
I'll have to power it down again.
Oh. Uh-oh.
So there was someone who actually tested so high in the office today that they set off the alarms.
How many VOCs are there that this can find?
So this tests about, my understanding, I was trying to really understand the definition of all these things, but it was about 15 or so, my understanding of that. And not all, and that's the challenge. Then I went home and I actually spent a lot of time, I was sticking this poor thing in the shampoo, the face lotion, the toothpaste, and I was like, my face soap was just, which is labeled all organic and natural, et cetera. All these things that have smells are just really full of VOCs. And then after I actually started reading it about this online, I didn't realize this was actually a major issue for the EPA. So there was actually a major soap or antiperspirant company recently that just had fines where there are actually people, they must have like college grads that are hired to go into all the drugstores, buy all the deodorants, and then test them for how many VOCs are in it. And someone actually exceeded the federal limits.
All right,
So,
are we ready for my test?
yes, so.
No pain yet.
No pain, it's coming. Oh, so, all right, you're registering about 500 parts per billion.
Is that good?
Is that good, bad?
That's actually, no, that's not deodorant. You're not wearing deodorant. All right. Well, let's see what the background in this room is.
You are incorrect.
Well, your deodorant's not very fragrant.
Well, that could be.
Okay, Kara.
Uh-oh.
You too don't seem to have very, actually, maybe it's the sweater is hard to penetrate.
Cashmere covers a lot of things.
Yeah, you two are not very,
Would you like to?
yeah, let's go under. Can I go through
Yeah,
that?
all right.
Oh, no, it's good. Okay, Susan.
Okay.
All right. Are you wearing deodorant? No. Okay. Yeah, no, you're not. The background on this room, I have to say, is pretty high. Just make note for next year. No, you also are actually pretty good. All right. Let me test you again, your other arm. I feel like I wasn't really getting up close
I'm
there.
getting a little scared where that pointy thing
Yeah, I mean, like, do you have an MD? What is this?
It has a, well, I mean, so this is part of the point of like some of the
When
things
someone
that,
says, let me test
oh
you
no, so
again.
now you're going up higher. So now you're hitting almost 600.
So that means there's.
Anyone else, Mom?
Oh, no.
I'm partially. To your own mother?
Or maybe your hair, because you might have something. Oh, you're actually high. You're gonna hit, you dry clean. 800. 750.
I like how she went from testing the chemicals to discussing people's.
Well, I think what's
hygiene.
interesting is that
wait,
people
yeah,
do.
So what's if
Yes?
you find out about this stuff and with that device,
So-
a device that will not give you friends,
see what I
what
am.
can you do about it? Just
Well,
knowing about
so
it.
you can change your purchasing habits. So for me, like one of the big aspects that this impacted is like one, it just helped me dictate like what kind of car. And so when I got a car, then I would actually scrub it with vinegar to get all the all the smells out,
Yeah,
and then you
because
could
I bet
actually
you couldn't
see that it
find
was
a
gone.
new car that didn't have a lot of this in it, right?
No, I mean that's actually true. That's one of the benefits of buying used. And so for furniture, you actually, I test everything. So that's why I had brought this in recently, because we reupholstered something in the company, and then I was testing, and it is actually much higher again. So we put it in a different.
So old things are better because they're
Old things
they've
are better
been
because
vented.
there's more, the chemicals have come out of it.
Except
so that's
the possible
off-gassing.
stains and other things are also not so great, right?
The stains
Just
and
asking.
the old things?
Yeah,
I
okay.
try what? Like, depends on whether or not, depends
Now,
on what the stain
what if you
is.
have old, 10-year-old Chinese baby pajamas that
They,
the government has banned?
There's a lot of pajamas from China with fire retardants in them.
Right.
Those don't really wash out.
Those don't wash out.
Not well. You want to be tested? So, I mean, for me, it's a question, from the crowdsourcing perspective, there is that question, what does it mean and what do you do? But if you can imagine that you had a community of millions and millions of people who were all posting that, oh, this is actually what my average daily exposure is, you could start to have those correlations. So if you look on the EPA website, there's all kinds of data about people who have the skin allergies, asthma, other kinds of issues, and it is associated with high VOC levels. So again, there's not a lot of data, but the same amount of data that there is really out there about organic, I think you have about VOCs. It's not a regulated industry. So for instance, it's not put on, none of the ingredients would be actually in my shampoo or in any kind of antiperspirant, but now you can actually test it.
So, what do you call that device?
This
much
is
does it
the,
cost?
it's the Ray Plus, R-A-E Plus.
What? The Ray Plus what?
VOC monitor.
And how much does that cost?
A couple years ago, it was a couple $1,000s. But they definitely make, I mean, so this is more of like a group. You don't need to necessarily test all the time. So this was a group purchase. We used to share it among everybody. But they're definitely cheaper now. And they're the same one also for the sort of when you want to look for large particles and small particles. So for instance, I just redid the house. And you can now actually get these very cheap small ones that are in every room. And they measure the amount of particles in your environment. So small and large. And they have specific measures the EPA puts out. What are the guidelines that you want it to be at?
But
So,
I would say they might want an industrial designer to look at that.
this is not, this reminds me of a lot of healthcare products. Like it is, someone could work on
Yeah,
this design element for sure.
okay.
That's what I got for you.
Thank you. That was
Cool.
fantastic.
So
Yeah.
we're not going to die.
Not
Yeah,
today.
not today.
All right.
But yes, we are, all of us, everyone in this room. Sorry to bring it down. Ed, where's my stuff? Where's gender which? Ed, where's Ed? My assistant's gone. I got to find my stuff, sorry.
Kara, down the other end of the table underneath
Which one?
the table
This
you
one,
were at.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Okay. Don't want to show off your stuff. Here we go. There we go. Okay, so one of the things we've been working on, by the way, first I want to say, we've been doing this for 10 years. We've had a great time. We've had great people here. There's a poster that showed all the various people. We've had Larry Page, Marissa Mayer, Jack Dorsey, Rob Glazier, a whole bunch of people that we've had here, and we want to thank, everybody's been fantastic over 10 years. I can't believe it's been 10 years we've been doing that, because I
Right.
remember the very first one
Me too.
that we did with Larry. But we're very pleased to have the Wojcickis here, and I love to have women on stage, as usual, because it's something we think it's important, and these are three incredible women. And also incredible people. You don't have to be a woman to be incredible. It helps. Sorry, boys. Oh my God, I have two children who are boys. But they're great too. But anyway, thank you so much for coming. And Greg, of course, has been with us the whole time. And Walt, these are his last columns for the Wall Street Journal after 20 years, and I think he deserves a round of applause for all the amazing gadgets. But more to come from us. So one of the things we're interested in, again, is the Internet of Things, quantification of things that people talk about all the time now. It's pretty much the biggest topic around about how you put, what Ann was talking about, monitors on things. And someday that giant device is going to be that. Your house will tell you if there's a problem with something that comes in and things like that. And so it's really moved very quickly. So one of the things that, I wanted to show off some stuff that is stuff that moves into the real world a lot more. You guys all know these devices. This is the new Fitbit. This is the new Up. This has a little screen on it now. The new Fitbit, it shows steps and calories and things that you did all day. This new Up now has a connection with your phone. Before you'd have to plug it in. And they do quantify things. A lot of them they're not very actionable. The problem I have with these, and I use a Fitbit actually, is that they don't really tell you much, and they don't tell you what happens afterwards. I think that's the real next step, is that if you sort of wake up at a certain time, someone could say maybe that donut was a mistake last night because you're not waking up as fast, or hey, perhaps an apple would be a better choice than that candy bar. It starts to give you
Or
some
more fire retardant would be
or
good.
more fire retardant things. So I don't think these things become prime time. I think they're interesting and kind of a fad, and you sort of start to get tired of them until they really start giving you great advice. That said, the first device is a thing called Whistle. Look at that nice looking dog right here. It's Whistle. This is a Fitbit for dogs. Let's see if I can put it there. It fits around a dog's. Oh, Ed, what's your passcode? Oh my God, Ed's gone. I can't show off the app. Ed, come over here and open this. You can say it out loud. What? Okay. Thanks, everyone who wants to get in Ed's phone.
So what happens if your dog doesn't want to exercise anymore? Fitbit for dogs?
Fitbit for dogs. It'll tell you how much is exercising, and so you can know if your dog's laying around. And mostly you can tell. My dog is incredibly fat. So one of them is.
The picture I saw showed it around.
One of them is fat, one of them is thin. So we put this on the thin one, of course. So this is the, can you see that? This is the app. This hasn't been, this is Leroy. You can see him there. What? That's Leroy. Oh. Why is this playing music?
What are you playing?
Me?
That was my device. It
Oh,
went a little
sorry.
ransacked.
Okay, all right, sorry.
It went renegade.
Yeah, I don't listen to
she
that
take your
lesbian
device?
music. Anyway,
No.
putting
this
her
is the
in
dog, and you can see their picture here. And then it'll show, this is Leroy, and it'll show the trends of the day. And what you do is there's a little thing on the side here that you click, and it doesn't, I'm not going to sync it right now because it's not going to work. But this thing lights up and syncs to this just the way the Fitbit does, similar Bluetooth syncing. And you, where's my piece of paper that I had? Okay. Is it over there?
Here.
My paper. I need my paper. This is
Paper.
Paper.
Made of wood.
Yes, indeed.
There you go.
So it's really kind of interesting that you can quantify like how much time you spend with your dog. Some of the things they have, it's an activity monitor, and there's also a comparison for other dogs, how fat your dog should be and how much activity your dog should have. And you can also, it's a social network where you can share stories with other dogs. With other dog owners, sorry. So it's a kind of interesting concept, and it's very attractive. I think it's actually nicer than a lot of these. I wear
So,
this.
Kara, if your dog is not measuring up,
Yes,
if you quantify your dog and it's just not measuring up, is it time to like get rid of the dog?
absolutely, absolutely. That is the situation. But I think it's kind of interesting that you can sort of quantify. It's a lot. You can do a lot of things of how much exercise the dog is getting. There's a lot of really fat dogs. Yes, Alex? What if your dog's too fat to wear it? It goes around their neck, and this is going around your neck tomorrow morning. So I just think this is interesting, this constant quantification of things, which I think is the big word for 2014 is quantification. The second one, speaking of quantification, now we couldn't get this to work, but it's, I don't know if this is an egg timer, an egg minder it's called. By the way, the whistle is $99 for the whistle, and it goes up in price next year. But this is an egg timer. Now these things have been around, the idea of that they can tell how old your eggs are. This is from Corky, it's called Egg Minder. It's $69.99, and you can buy it in Home Depot for $49. But it wirelessly says the number of eggs you have when you're out, and it also tells you
Because you can't see through that cover to count.
No, exactly. Sorry. So when you're out at the store, I know you don't do this, but when you're out at the store.
I do this.
Do you? You can know how many eggs you have.
I have a piece of paper that my wife gives me that says
Yes.
wrap eggs.
Okay. In any case.
Buy eggs.
Listen, Mossberg. There's still time for me to get a new partner.
Actually not.
Okay. No, I'm kidding. Sort of. Okay. So this is through this thing called Wink, which is right here. So what it does is there's a thing on the side, and I'm not going to do it right now, and you join it with your phone over internet network, and then it has an app on here, and it tells you, gives you all kinds of information. Wink has a lot of things you connect. There's all kinds of, how many?
They have a lot.
They have a lot. They have like 70 other things.
It's kind of a platform.
It's a platform for connecting devices that you have in your house, and this egg timer is probably
And
the
Kara,
most.
I also think there are little lights next to where the
Yes.
eggs sit.
Yes,
so that
right here.
when you do go to the refrigerator to take one, you could take the oldest egg,
Right.
and then the next oldest egg, and so forth.
Exactly. And so what's interesting
What we
is
call a first world problem.
and how old they are. And you can also, so what's interesting is this idea of all kinds of things having apps in your house. But this is kind of an interesting. I don't think
8/10 of the
necessarily
world,
old
they get
eggs is a
one
huge
egg.
problem for America, but it's still must be dealt with, the egg situation. Obama should get on that one, and his political thing could get up higher.
She's
But,
right about
but it's an interesting idea that everything could be. This thing is quite heavy, though, and stuff like that. But it's a very nice-looking egg timer. But all kinds of things like this in the home are going to be. You're going to be able to check it on your app, not just heating. You know, obviously Nest has gotten a lot of the attention recently. But there's all kinds of things that can happen in that regard. The next thing is something called. Metro Mile. It's right here.
What is this?
This is Metro Mile. I don't know if you ever looked at the bottom of your car, the bottom of where your driver's seat. There's a thing, diagnostics thing that mechanics charge you $100 zillion to do, where you have diagnostics in your car. But you don't need to do that. You can plug your own Metro Mile and do diagnostics yourself before you get to the mechanic. And so you could know what's wrong with various parts of your car, because this is exactly the same things they use. They plug it in, and it gives them all kinds of information about what's wrong or right with your car. And so you plug it into, there's a thing underneath on the driver's side, I believe is where it is. You plug it in. Here's the front. I spent a lot of time ferreting around my car looking for...
All new cars have and I think it's gone back some years now, they all have a port.
It's called ODB port.
The ODB port, right, like you said, right next to the
right next to the
steering
driver's
column.
side.
It's what Progressive Insurance uses to give those special rates.
Right.
'Cause they actually look at how much driving you're
Well,
doing.
where I live, and perhaps here in California too, it's where they do the emissions tests.
Right, exactly.
They
Similar
plug
thing. So
something
this
in
is
there.
but this is your own. So it's free. The insurance company is subsidizing this right now in Washington State and Oregon and soon California. Just some of the things that it does is using data. You can see your MPG. You compare trips, check the status of your engine, locate the car, and more. It decodes status reports from your engine, lets you know if you need a checkup. It'll locate your car for you if the last place you left it. After you have your MERS incident, you can then try to find your car. It reduces insurance rates depending on how you drive. Now, obviously, there's a lot of issues around these quantification things, as people know where you're driving. And eventually, you'll be able to, I suppose, turn off cars and stop them and things. You can do that now. But more and more stuff is they're going to know what you're doing. It contributes to positive things like traffic and things like that, and negative things like that the whole car was the last bastion of freedom. And
The
no
NSA
longer.
is subsidizing that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and don't tell your son, your kids, but that's a very good thing to have if you have kids and they start driving. Basically, it also will alert you if they're going too fast or going in the wrong place.
Except now that you said that, Louis will remove it.
Right, exactly. He's not smarter than I am on these issues. So anyway, so it's an interesting idea that these are various things. There's eggs, there's cars, there's dogs. And then the last thing that I'm going to bring up is I always have an assistant come out. And I decided this year, I love the Hunger Games so much. And so this is obviously a bow. We all know, ooh, this one's broken. This one particular I'm not using. It just attaches here. This is a bow and arrow that you start to play games. We had a lot of these things with tennis rackets and things like this, but these things are getting fantastic. And this is the bow version of it. Peter, can you come out, please?
Okay, one thing, a lot of people say I got injured very easily, but Kara, I stubbed my toe. I need you.
Okay, so Peter is always in trouble. Katniss is always saving him. I don't know if you've noticed that. He's kind of a wimp. And so is Louis. Anyway, Louis, show us how this is used. So let's put it underneath the thing first. It's a really nice, it's actually a terrific bow. This is a terrific bow. And you can also play against each other or against people. Okay, turn it on.
My brother doesn't have a password.
Can you explain what's going on there?
Okay, what we're doing is there's a game here, an app that you have.
So there's a phone.
It's
in there.
always a gun game now.
Yeah, exactly. So there it is. Let's turn it this way. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, like that.
Can you still
Get
advertise
it turned
on
on?
that phone?
Yeah.
Let's turn it this way so people can see it up here.
What?
Like this.
Okay, but I'm.
You can't play it. I know you can't play it. I just want them to see what you're seeing. So what happens is you have a thing, and then you decide on things, and then when you're doing it, things appear before you, and it moves around the room as if you're moving. And we can't show that to you, but it actually, as you move, it feels like you're moving, and different.
The person turns.
The person
in the game.
turns in the game, and so it's using the thing inside called Walt again. This accelerometer to tell you where you are, and it feels like you're actually moving, and then you start shooting people as they come up instead of kids sort of. It's still
Blam,
not.
blam.
It's still not as good as real shooting of people, archery, but instead of people just sitting here, they move around. And Louis, why don't you play a little bit to show people how you would do that?
Turn up
If
the
your
volume
dog
so you
fails
guys
the
can-
other side, she uses bow.
No, I want to hear it.
Oh, okay.
Is that basically it?
So apparently I just got killed because
Okay,
you.
okay, go ahead.
You got killed already?
Okay, so I'm pulling it back to shoot, and I'm shooting some people.
You could be a little more athletic, Louis. Like,
No, that's not my thing.
okay, all right. So you can move around, and you can also play games. I just think these are more
we
interesting.
wonder
If they're
why
just sort of,
China
I have
is
a
so
problem. I think we all have a problem with kids just
They're all
sitting there,
coding right
including
now.
myself, over their devices.
Our
And
kids
so they
are
can do
shooting
a little
people on
more
the screens
playing
of
with
phones
it
that are
and,
made in China.
and playing with each other. Put it down. See if you can get it under here so people can see it.
Okay, so
They had a
I'm
meeting in China, and they said, we'll make these
so I'm
codes.
turning.
Send them
Okay, I
over
just
there.
lost the connection.
Okay, so what's
The
really
road
interesting is, again, a lot of everything is powered by this iPhone or your Google phone or the Android phones. But a lot of things, you insert them into things more and more, and then you get to do different things with them. So this really has really become the remote control for everybody's life, I think. I think it's very clear. And you could do all kinds of things. Obviously, they've done them in front of Wii's and things like that, but I think these things are going to get just really sophisticated in terms of what you do, and then you use this phone in some fashion as the way you do things in your interface. And obviously, eventually, you'll have a helmet on, correct, Greg, which you're probably pulling out right now, but that you would put on, and so you feel like you're in it, and as you move through it, and so we're really moving closer to that idea of the sort of the Tom Cruise movie.
Matrix.
Not the Matrix, no.
Minority Report.
Minority
I'm sorry,
Report,
right,
where
yeah,
you get to, where you do feel like you're within things and you're doing stuff. Anyway, Louis, thank you very much for helping me. What?
But the two bows don't know about each other.
They can, yes.
They
There's
can?
games you can download.
No, the bows don't know anything about each other.
No,
the
the
phone knows.
The phone knows. The phone knows everything. Between Google and the NSA, they know everything.
The bow's kind of like a workout. The bow's kind of like a workout for those like people that have no life and they spend it all playing video games, I guess.
Like yourself?
I believe they had a meeting in China, and they said, while our kids are learning how to code, we will flood America with these bows.
Exactly. But anyway, I just think it's a really cool thing. You should come up here and feel it because it does feel kind of cool. And again,
That one's broken.
it's not working, but it's kind of an interesting concept that you would do that. Anyway, thank you very much. And
Thank you,
next
Louis.
up is Susan Wojcicki.
Okay, I have 3 different objects to demo. The first one is, get it out, it's a Google product.
And
It's
a great Google product.
Chromecast. I love it. I brought it here. It's changed my life. And it's only $35.
Are you selling them?
No,
the back,
I sell
Susan.
the ads.
Afterward.
At the
Outside.
back
I
of
do
her
the ads,
trunk,
not
she'll be
this.
selling them.
So what I like about it is it's really, really easy. There's a 1, 2, 3, how to get started. And as you can see, it is very small and very simple. I don't know, can you guys see this here? Well, anyway, you guys can see it here. It's like,
Right.
looks
You
like
can
a
put it
little
down.
key.
You can put it
looks
down.
Put it down.
They'll see it.
Now you can see it on the screen.
Okay. So you take it and you put it into your TV. You look in the back for something that looks like this size for people who are really untechnical.
It's a
You
highly
just stick it
technical
in,
explanation.
and
This is a top Google executive giving you this information.
Look for something that looks like this might fit in it.
like this, kind of how things work, right? I mean, there are all these different devices, and you put it in there. Then, okay, that's step 1, or let's see, what hold on, is that step 1? Plug it in. Okay, which is great. Step 2, switch input. So you have to go to your TV and get that to HDMI until a nice picture comes up and it says Chromecast. And then you go to Google and they give you a specific URL, google.com, Chromecast setup. When you go there, it takes about 1 minute to download the little extension and to pair it with your TV. So suddenly your phone is paired with your TV. And when your phone is paired with your TV, you can take all of the things that are, well, we're working on having all. It's not quite all, but we can take things that you would like to see on your TV, like YouTube or Netflix or Hulu, and you can actually take them and have them run on your TV and control them with your phone. Now, this is actually, I really like it a lot because you can get a lot, suddenly all of the things that are on YouTube, you're not watching in front of your computer anymore. You're actually watching them in the living room in front of your TV. And if you have a laptop, you can actually go and download the Chrome extension and you can watch all your photos. And so instead of me going like this, like, would you like to see my photos? And it's like this tiny little screen, I can actually say, please come over. I can show them to you on my TV. Anything that's on YouTube, you can actually see on the TV. And suddenly we can get people to see.
So now this has been available. YouTube's been on Netflix. How's that, you know, I mean, and what other, Amazon's?
Well, YouTube's on Apple TV. I don't think it's on Roku yet.
The point is it's really easy for it to do it, and it's really inexpensive. And the fact, it's kind of part of the trend that you can fling pretty much anything onto your TV, and you start using your phone, instead of to shoot people, to
watch those really educational things
TV
from
shows.
YouTube, yeah.
So actually, I wanted to demo this here, but it was too hard to bring in a big TV and plug it in. So actually, we had a 1-minute video. So if possible, can I show it?
Sure.
All right.
Since we've got you on the spot here.
Yeah.
Does Google, when Google's thinking about this stuff, you can use this on the iPhone too, correct? Use it with that. What do you imagine, is everything you're doing now centered on the phone? Every single thing at your company? Do you consider that the case?
Well, mobile definitely is changing everything. I mean, I think as you guys know, and I mean, I think the fact that you can actually suddenly, this is your most powerful device in your house, and you can actually go and you can go to any screen or go to your TV and be able to see what's on my phone is a pretty powerful concept. So, you know, the idea is that, I mean, I think a lot of times, like my kids have noticed, like my 2- or 3-year-old at one point would say, we can see this stuff on our computer. And then they would look at the TV and they would say, how come we can't see it on the TV? And a 2- or 3-year-old would get it. They would get that these are all screens and everything should be interactive and everything should be able to work. But because we were wired for the last, however old we are, thinking that they're all different, we don't think that way. But really, I think if you look into the future, really all of these screens should work in the same way. And this should be your remote control.
So does the desktop matter anymore to you, do you think?
Well, I still use a desktop, but over time, I think it's going to matter a lot less. So I think every year it's going to be less.
Certainly for your own pictures and videos and things like that. I mean, give me just an example. One of my kids came to visit, had a bunch of pictures of some trip he had taken, and he didn't even try to do, as you were saying before, he didn't try to show it to everybody. He just sat down. Now, he was not using Chromecast, but it's the same idea. He's using AirPlay on an Apple TV. He just beamed the stuff from his phone to a 50-inch TV, and he said he showed us his trip, you know, and it was just much nicer than crowding around the phone.
Yeah, so I think like in the future we should all be able to just, you know, beam our stuff up and have it work.
All right. That's what they're working on at Google X, the beam up thing, right? It's on the barge. Oh, they have, of course they have it. They have it.
Yeah.
Actually, how many people have Chromecast already? Okay, so, all right, so we have we have a good supporting group here, but we have lots of people who could still probably benefit, and it's really affordable, and it's a great gift, because it's really easy. You can also, which is also great, is because it's so small and portable, you can just bring it with you. So if you go to a vacation or a hotel or any place, just plug it in, and then suddenly you can watch whatever you want in
Actually,
that new
it
location.
doesn't entirely work in all hotels for some complicated reason of how their Wi-Fi is set up, but.
Okay, well, a vacation rental or other places.
I'm just curious, how many people use Apple TV too, the Apple TV thing too? Also.
How many have Roku?
I have all of them.
Now I have all of them, and Kara has all of them. How many have substituted, gotten rid of cable altogether because between these things you're fine?
Not yet.
Well, it's
A lot.
not too bad. I wonder if it would be true if we were not where we are. I don't know.
I don't think this is a representative
You don't?
audience of no. And that's a compliment. All right, so my second demo is actually kind of similar to my first, but instead of using this as my remote control for my video, I now can use it as my remote control for my music. So this is the mini jam box.
Jam box, yeah.
It is really tiny. I could fit it into my purse. In fact, I did, and then I forgot about it.
Would it fit into my Merce?
We could try. I think so.
Yeah, it fits in the Merce.
There we go. Yes, it would. We can see
Okay.
if it would fit here under Anne's
In my armpit? It goes
Yes.
into my armpit. Wait, can I measure it though?
I bet
See
it's
if it's
full
emitting
of
anything.
videos.
Okay, yeah, Anne can measure it later. It comes in lots of different colors.
Made entirely of fire retardant.
Yes, probably. We can figure that out later. So you can control it with your phone. So, and by accident, I started controlling it during Kara's demo. Sorry. But I'll just get it to start playing right now. It's one of my kids' favorite songs. We are never, ever getting back together. Sorry. Let's see. Is it on? Is it playing? I played before when it wasn't supposed to.
It's so embarrassed it won't turn on now.
Behaving badly.
Let's see.
Either that
on.
or Anne's copious deodorant.
What's interesting about, while she's, I'm going to cover for her, what's interesting about these things is that there's the original Jambox was much, much larger, and they're getting incredibly small. If you go to any store to see some of these speakers, they're getting gigantic sound for very little size. Also, there you go. She's going to dance for us. Okay.
Let's see. This is like, so it's pretty loud for
That is
small
pretty good.
with pretty good quality.
How much does it cost?
All right.
Stop, Taylor.
All right, that's enough. And you have a little, you see it here, you can control it from your phone. So it's sort of the similar idea that now not only can I control everything I watch on TV, but I can control all my music and my different entertainment devices, all from this in my house.
So what do you do when you lose your phone?
Well, so actually the interesting thing that happened is if you don't turn this off, this happened to me today, then when your phone rings, also this can also become a speakerphone. So Anne was on speakerphone today, but yeah, I don't know. You can try calling it and hopefully find it. Don't lose your phone, I think is the message.
My last question for this, do you imagine embedding things into people?
Embedding things into people?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
Okay.
But let me know if you
Okay.
demo that in the
Well, I'm
future.
assuming you're working on it, not me, but just the idea of that you become
Working on it.
controls.
Greg has it embedded already.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, I'm looking forward to your gadgets. So this is $130. All right, so my last one is a toy, because I thought it was good to talk about little people. This is a toy called Little Bits, and you can buy an intro kit for $100. It has been called the Legos for the iPad generation. And what it has is all these little bits. I can take some out. It actually comes in this nice area. But I had my kids play with it, so of course they didn't put it back perfectly. And each of these little bits actually does something. So you can see, and they also have magnets, so they connect in different ways. So we have pulse here. We can have sound. We can have buzzers. The thing I did learn is if you buy this kit and you have multiple children,
you need multiple power sources because otherwise they all fight over it, because you need the power source in order to run it. So here's one that I put together a little bit beforehand. It took me literally 5 seconds to do this. And here's the power source. And you can see this is the power right here. We have different inputs, and these are all color-coded. So we have inputs, outputs, which are different colors. And so if you put this together and you just press the button, you can see how it's lighting up. There are different ways to be able to turn it on and off. And see, it's making, you probably can't hear very well, but it's making a little noise. Actually, that noise gets kind of irritating as your kids are playing with it all evening long. But the thing is, your kids can, and you can take, so you can just put this, I can just take this apart, and I can put like another piece here, and put this here. And then there are other things that you can attach to it, like little motors that move around, or little sensors where you press and something goes down. And so suddenly, what your kids see is they see how electronics are built. And they understand because they're putting together these little pieces. This one like lights up. Let's see if it actually, there we go. So let's see if well, this one isn't really lighting up right now. But you can see this, other ones are lighting up here. This is lighting up. And so for kids who want to understand the modern world and they actually want to build with it, they can take a bunch of these different pieces, put it together, and they can build all kinds of different projects that go much more beyond this. And they can put different things around it, and so there are different tricks that they can do, like you shake your hand and it buzzes and it vibrates. They can build those kind of things. My kids were very interested in this. So overall, this is a pretty good way to get kids interested in electronics. And I was really surprised my 5-year-old was super, super into it. And she just kept on playing with it. So it is both entertaining and educational. And that is hard to find when you are a parent. So I highly recommend it. And that's it.
Thank you.
All right, Esther, you ready?
Yes, I have to wait till she unloads.
Moves all my little bits.
Yes, gets rid of her little bits. Well, there's nothing like being on stage with your children. Yes, it's the first time. So,
Hey, Esther, before you start, I just have a question for you. All your daughters you have another daughter, Janet, who's
she's at UCSF Medical School.
She's an
Yes.
epidemiologist, is that correct?
Yes, epidemiologist.
How did your kids get so science and math oriented and so this way? What did you do? What did you feed them? Volatile chemicals?
No, let's see. I married a physicist.
What?
I married a physicist, yes. And I asked him in advance, if he had mathematical genes. And he said yes, so that did it.
I think the better answer is that she made us all cut coupons on Sunday mornings. And that made us very
Well, that's true. Actually, I did have them doing a lot of math at home when they were little. As a matter of fact, Janet, who's the one at UCSF, she finished all the elementary school math by the time she was in first grade. So she was a real problem for all the teachers. They didn't know what to do with her. It was really a problem. It's like, what are we going to do with Janet today? And she was not one of those kids that was easy to deal with. So she was busy doing all kinds of terrible things to all the other kids. So, I was really interested in math, actually, and I was really interested in science. And so I'm a teacher, by the way. I teach at Palo Alto High School. And I've been there for, in 2014, that means 30 years, Palo Alto High School. So, one of the things that I talk about all the time, and one of the things I'm most interested in, is project-based learning. I think that people learn by doing, not by listening and not by watching. In our school system today, most lectures, it's lecture, right? People learn in classes, or they think they learn by listening. And it doesn't work very well, as far as I'm concerned. Actually, I had my daughters doing a lot of stuff, so our house was kind of messy. And it turns out that messy means creative, by the way. So, when you're cleaning up after all those kids and all the messes they make so you can think about long term, they're very creative. So, one thing I thought I would bring is, it's not a gadget, but I can put it up here. I don't know if you can see it. So this is the student newspaper. It's project-based learning at Palo Alto High School. And this was about, it just came out on Friday, about the North Korean detaining a Palo Alto citizen. Of course, fortunately, it was released. But the kids produce this every 2 to 3 weeks. And it's, this is one section. It's a three-section paper. And it's produced all by students. It's all student done. So the question that people ask me frequently is like, so how do you test to make sure that they are reaching the Common Core state standards in the testing? And my answer is, if you can do this, I can tell you can pass the test. And as a matter of fact, how many people can pass it? How many people actually that pass really well, high on the test, can do something like this? So here's the other 2 sections. So they have a lifestyle section here. And let's see if I can, lifestyle.
Walt was just saying this is better than the Chronicle.
Yeah, it's pretty, they do great stuff. They come up with their own story ideas. So this is lifestyle. Notice their very creative headline here. I thought it was pretty cute. And then they have a sports section as well. And we have, at Palo Alto High School, 8 magazines, newspapers, television, websites, and so forth, because the idea is to get as many students as possible involved in project-based learning, because, again, they learn by doing. So that's what got me very excited about this gadget that I'm going to demo. Actually, unfortunately, I didn't realize I could demo more than one gadget. So I just have one, but I thought I would show it to you. It's really exciting. And so, by the way, this is, in case you don't know, this is CS, Week CS for Education, which is Computer Science for Education. And so you're supposed to, in class, hopefully, have, it's called an hour of code. We should be teaching as many students as possible how to code. So the question is, when do you start teaching people how to code? When? Well, take a look what we've got going here. It's under the little black cloth. Here is a great toy that you don't have to worry about whether your kids are learning anything. They are actually going to learn how to code starting at age 5. And let's see if I can get this thing to turn on, slide to unlock. You can see what a little genius I am here. So this company is called Play Eye, and I discovered them by accident. I was really excited to discover them. They're located here in Palo Alto, and the 2 founders are here in the audience. In case I mess up, they're here to rescue me. And I just thought I'd show you what this wonderful toy can do. So just watch. See, I'll just push this button here. There it goes. So there it is. But it does more than that. Let's say you get tired of listening to Twinkle Twinkle. I'm not sure what's happening over there. If you do get tired of listening to Twinkle Twinkle, you can actually reprogram this yourself. So,
who programmed Twinkle Twinkle? Can the kids program that? Learn to program?
I don't know if they can program. I think it comes pre-programmed with Twinkle Twinkle.
So the idea is to teach them how to do
The idea is to teach them how to change what song this device is making so that they can do their own thing. So I'm going to give you like a little demo, okay, here, on how to do this. And here's just one. Uh-oh. Let's see if it behaves itself. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm just going to push on one of these little A things, and then I'm going to push on this arrow thing, and push on another A thing. And what it does is it's going to repeat some of the sounds. And you can see up here, it's going to play the scale, or hopefully will play the scale here. Notice. does this, okay? So then it says, good job, and so I can go and do something else. So here's another one. I can do these two of those, and then I'll do, I think, one of these. Hopefully I've done it correctly. And here we go. Let's see. It's going to skip notes this time. Oh, do it twice. So the idea, so kids, of course, they can play all sorts of things. They can do anything they want here. So let's say you want to make a mistake, or you don't want to make a mistake, but you just let kids do something that they just normally do, which is kind of crazy. And let's see what it does. Oh my God, it's still doing it. Well, okay, well, no, but it says, see here, it says I did not do it correctly. I don't know if you can see that somehow or other. This machine is not working. Have I done? There we go. So now, see? And it says, nope, did it wrong, or whatever, in another way. But the idea is to have kids learn how this type of a tablet can control a device like this. And so my question to the founders was, well, I can just see kids doing this over and over and over and over and over again, and it would drive the parents a little nutty. So apparently these devices are going to have a personality. And the personalities can be, one of them would be like, enough already. You've done this too much, you can now switch to something else. So there'll be a couple or 3 personalities that you can get in your device, and notice that it has an eye. I don't know if you can see it from there, but anyway, the eye is supposed to make it look like, you actually see, it has a personality. It looks more like a personality than just a regular toy. So this is one way to get kids doing something that is meaningful, educational, and hopefully getting them involved in coding really early. And so that's why I was very excited to find it.
You're a journalism professor.
Yes.
A teacher.
Yes.
Do you think that all of us, this is a big push for Hour of Code. It's a very laudable effort that they're doing. But is that at the expense of anything else? I mean, you've been an educator for a long time. Basic, or do you think that it's just inevitable that every journalist, for example, you're building a big facility at Pally. How do you think about that, having done it for so long?
So I do think that every kid should be taking some coding, and it should be part of some program. Program specifically that would work would be part of, for example, a math class would be able to do some. We're not talking about a lot of coding. It's just a way of thinking. And so this newspaper program, the Campanile that I run, the kids use more technology in that class than they do in any other class in the school, because everything is done on computer. The whole thing is sent over the internet. The websites, we build our own websites. We broadcast every day. We use technology to do the broadcasting. So the kids use technology, they apply it. In other words, they have to find out why it's important and then apply it at the same time.
Can I answer your question too, because I've been involved in the Hour of Code. I mean, I think it's really essential for us going forward that we do teach coding in schools, and that we pretty much have everybody learning to code. And it is a problem right now that it's seen as an optional skill. And if you think about the world and you think about how it's going to change over the next, if you have a elementary school kid, how's it going to change over the next 15 years? Where are all the jobs going to be? We do so many things to make our kids successful. Why not give them an education about how to really be successful in the digital world? And that would be having basic coding experience. And the other thing that I actually learned in this Hour of Code, which I had never really thought about before that I think is really important, is making it a mandatory required class, which, by the way, we all learn like physics and chemistry and biology and math and spelling, which, you could argue potentially computer science is more important than any of those other things. I mean, they're all important, but it's certainly an important skill going forward. And the thing I realized with this Hour of Code is it actually makes it so that all the people who have not participated, women, brings diversity. If everybody is getting that training, then suddenly everybody has that exposure. Everyone is teaching for all genders. You don't have these expectations that it's a more male type of field, because by definition, everybody is taking this class, everybody is exposed to it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think that if you think back to the Middle Ages, when people didn't know how to read, you had your monk or your priest who would read for you. And, you know, that was, you weren't, education, you didn't have to be educated. No, if you were educated, it didn't mean you had to read. Then we made reading a mandatory subject, and now if you don't know how to read, you're not educated. I would argue that if you don't know how to code, understand code, it'd be like the same thing as not knowing how to read back in the Middle Ages.
I'll tell you a true story. 15 or 20 years ago, I was stunned when my oldest son came home from high school and said, they've gotten rid of wood shop, which used to be what every boy at least used to have to take, and they are going to teach us HTML this semester, and we're going to have to make a web page. This is a long time ago.
Wow.
This was way before this wave recently. And I said, you know, there are these things like Dreamweaver or whatever they were at the time, where you can just make you don't actually have to know the underlying HTML code. He said, oh no, they won't let us use that. We have to actually hand code. Yep. It was a simple website. There were no unsimple websites in those days, but they actually, and they were graded on it, and it was mandatory, and that was part of graduating. At his particular high school not in California, but in Maryland, quite a while ago.
So I do work with Dean Kamen and the First Robotics, and if any of you have kids, I highly recommend you look at First Robotics, because it takes kids, and high school kids, and teaches them how to think differently and go to work on a project and educationally. And I'm so delighted you showed Little Bits, because I'm a huge fan of Little Bits. I mean, I've got them all over the place. I'm glad I didn't bring them because you had them, but I think that's absolutely fabulous. I also have the Raspberry Pi, which is just as interesting and for a little bit older. But anyway.
So one of the things I'm trying to promote actually is journalism in schools all over the country, actually all over the world, because I think the skills a journalist has are skills that 21st century students need. And those are skills on, first, how to search, how to understand what you get as a result of a search, and how to figure out what's most important, and then also how to write. And we all need to know how to write for the web, and so that's another thing that I've been pushing in addition to the CS computer science. So in this building that Palo Alto is opening, I don't know if you know that in the spring of this coming year, they're opening a 27,000 square foot media center in Palo Alto. It's the first of its kind in the country for a high school, and we're pretty excited about it. And so part of that program includes all these journalism programs, all these students. We have about 600 kids taking journalism, and it will also include computer science. So that's part of the whole thing, so that the kids that are doing CS will also be part of the whole program. So I think it's a very important thing. So one of the things I also wanted to do was to show a little video about iPlay, by the way, because it does more than what I showed up here, and the video shows what it can do. So if you could start the video, it takes about a minute, or maybe a minute and a half.
Our children are growing up in a world where computer literacy is as essential as reading, writing, and arithmetic. Introducing Bo and Yana. They're toy robots, but they're so much more than that. They're a learning and storytelling platform that makes computer programming accessible and fun. Meet Bo. Bo can be programmed to do an unlimited number of things, from basic movement, to object detection, to complex sequences of instructions. And this is Yana. Yana can detect when it is being moved, allowing children to invoke characters. These robots can detect each other, and accessories can be added to give them special abilities.
They teach the basics of computer science in one of the best ways possible. Problem solving through hands-on playtime. And our research shows that that is one of the best ways for children to learn.
Bo and Yana are designed to be programmed by children using our touch interface with music, animation, and stories, as well as existing languages like Scratch and Blockly.
We try to get them to watch less TV, push them to learn new things, but it wasn't until these robots came out of the box and our kids just got so absorbed.
Programming applies to and is used by virtually every field: art, architecture, medicine, law. Learning to program is really learning problem solving, taking something big and seemingly incomprehensible, breaking it down and building up a solution. And this concept really applies to virtually anything in life.
Learning to program isn't only to become a computer programmer. We want to help shape our future innovators, our future thinkers, our future leaders. And the future is today.
So I hope that everybody is going to be able to have toys like that for their kids, as opposed to these things that I've seen at, I don't want to say where, but they repeatedly do the same thing all over and over again, and that people really don't learn much of anything, and kids really don't learn anything. So thank you very much, and happy to be here.
And now, Crazy Greg.
Crazy Greg.
Okay.
You're not going to learn
Crazy
anything here, but
Greg.
you're going to be entertained.
Crazy Greg, well.
He has something that's going to go along with Bo.
Bo, yes.
Yes, wait till you see.
So, Crazy Greg, a lot of people think I just love gadgets. Actually, there's a business reason behind it. And I look at all this technology, understand where the future of technology is going, and I find out if you don't experience it, you can read about it, but if you don't actually experience it, it's very hard to understand how to use it. So there is logic to this, but I'll put that aside tonight and just have fun. I haven't gotten rid of my stuff, by the way, and I just took the third 23-foot truckload of old gadgets up to our barn upstate New York. So there is a museum of computing when I retire, if ever I do that. 25 cents, you can come up and see the history of computing, the old compact luggables and word processors you can climb into. So I have a long history of these things. But when I take gadgets, I do try to look at them for what they mean going forward, but I also have fun with it. And so, as you might imagine, I travel a lot. And when I travel a lot, I have my run-ins with the TSA on a regular basis. And today, I got on the plane. Actually, I got on the plane on Sunday first to go to San Diego. And it was interesting. They did not really care about my bag. The bag was filled. I mean, totally filled with gadgets. I mean, there was no clothes in it at all. And I had a device that I was very worried about because I said, this looks like a gun. And not only does it look like a gun, it pulls back, and you put a clip in it, okay? And now I have a gun that is changing bits. This is a screwdriver, and every time I pull this back, I can shoot bits on this thing. I was getting worried that they were going to stop me because I had this gun. Doesn't it look like a gun?
Yes.
By the way, this is a very cool thing because it keeps the bits in here, and every time I pull it back and forth, it automatically changes the bits.
But they didn't.
They did not care.
On the X-ray?
They did not care about my gun. What they cared about was this, the basketball. No. They freaked out because when this went through the X-ray and they saw a basketball with 7 sensors, wires, and batteries in it, they had no idea what to do about it. In fact, this morning when I was coming down from San Diego, again, they didn't look at my bag. They were bouncing this thing all over the place, and they knew about it. And these guys were having a basketball game at the TSA. So what is this ball? It's actually made by a former NBA player who was trying to figure out how to teach sports to their kids. And so he put sensors in this thing, and there's an app, and I won't go through the whole thing because I don't know how to play basketball. But the bottom line is, this ball, if you ever want something, this ball actually measures its speed, how many times you bounce it, its spin, everything else. They're going to do this for soccer and other sports like that. It charges wirelessly with a little base, and then it talks to an iPhone app. So this is called the 9450. It's available at the Apple Store. There's going to be soccer balls and other things like that. And if you're not into basketballs,
Greg, why would you want to know how many times?
well, because if you're learning how to hit the ball and do it, they explained to me that the techniques you use will show you how to be a better player. And so there actually teams are using this to teach in schools. And if you don't like that, if you're not a basketball player, you got this little device here. This goes on the end of your tennis racket. There's one also for your baseball bat. There's another one for your golf. Same idea. It's a sensor that attaches onto your racket. And this little device here, very simple. It also tracks everything you're doing with your racket. Now, if you...
Greg, it also has an app?
It has an app. They all have apps, yeah. And then if you're worried about people playing football, since we're talking about school, and we're all worried about head concussions, this is from Reebok, and this is a little cap that you put under the helmet. But what's interesting about this cap is it has a sensor on it, and I can see if I can turn it on.
Does it tell you if you have a concussion?
And it tells you if you've been hit, how many times you've been hit. And it lights up on the back, on this little light thing back here, and it will tell you whether you've been hit multiple times or not. And the idea is you tell the coach you have one of these, and so if the thing starts flashing red, it means you better pull that player out. I did not bring, because unfortunately they couldn't get it to me in time, but there's also a jersey you wear that has the sensors in it. It also will tie together. So between the ball, the cap, and the other things, you can actually monitor. Sports teams in Europe are now using this for European football. So sensors are, of course, interesting. This is another interesting sensor. This one is a plant sensor. And you stick it in the ground. And this little thing here is a light sensor. This is a humidity and acidity and everything else. And you tell it what kind of plant it is, and it will sit there and tell you whether the plant is doing well. And of course, if the plant is thirsty, it will tweet you and say, I need water. It will also tell you if you don't know what you're doing gardening-wise and says, sorry, this plant's going to die. But anyway, you get these little things. And it's made to look sort of like a plant itself. So you put these things, in your garden. So if your garden has all these little things, you can know whether you know what you're doing about gardening.
Does that connect to your computer?
That connects to your computer. It's made by a Parrot. The same guy, some of you were here before, they make the little drone that goes around. They also made a really cool pair of headphones. There are a couple of these guys, but this one is actually kind of nice because it has the light sensor. But I'm into sensors, and so one of the other ones, of course, we've all been looking at previous year, the Nest thermostat, really cool thing. That's old. But what's new is this new Nest. And this is a smoke alarm. And it's a very different smoke alarm than the standard smoke alarm. First of all, smoke alarms, they all make that terrible sound. You have no idea what's going on. This one actually has a voice.
Press to test.
Now, I'm not going to press to test because it will start making a lot of noise. It's a battery-operated smoke detector, but it's a Wi-Fi connected battery-operated smoke detector. So you put multiple of these in your house. They all talk to each other. They will talk to the Nest thermostat as well. It will also measure carbon monoxide. So in fact, if your furnace is doing something not good, it will turn off the furnace. And even if it's detecting something downstairs, it will alert you upstairs near your bedroom what the problem is. And when you cook and then all that smoke comes on and it starts causing problems, well, instead of having to try to blow the smoke away, all you have to do is go near it and give it a special hand signal, and it will turn it off. But it will talk to you in English as to what's going on. If it's a real fire, it'll warn you. So, you don't have to worry about the smoke getting up to your level. If the smoke is downstairs and you're upstairs, the downstairs one will find it. And of course, this will also go geolocation. It will detect where you are. They'll talk to each other. And it does a lot of very cool things. It's a little expensive, but what's your safety worth? And it's also 3 years on the battery. And if there's a problem with the battery, it'll tell you as opposed to beep, 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 beep.
Greg, one thing
Excuse
with that is it's a woman's voice, because supposedly children will listen to a woman's voice if there's an emergency.
It won't stop.
It won't stop. It's about a test. It makes a big noise. I got to be careful on it. Now, the world of sensors is not limited to sensors that nature. This is another one of my favorites. This is called the Porkfolio. I thought the name was great. It's by the same people. It's the same quirky company that makes the egg thing. And what it is, it's a piggy bank. And so you put money into it, and it lights up when I put money in. And then I pull out my phone, and it will tell me how much money is in my Porkfolio. I just like the name, the Porkfolio. So here's my Porkfolio, and as you can see, there's $1 in my Porkfolio. And if I put another, anybody have another? I'll put another quarter in so you can see. So I'll put another quarter in, and it should go to $1.25. Of course, it won't do that now because you're watching. Yeah, there it is, $1.25. Now, it had a little problem with it. I was on the plane, and all of a sudden, my phone was going berserk. It turns out that the Porkfolio also has a feature that when your little brother or sister steals your piggy bank, or your parents go steal your piggy bank, it sends out an alert. And it says, your Porkfolio is being moved. Well, guess what? The Porkfolio is being moved, And it was constantly bothering me. It's in the overhead bin, and it's like, I'm being moved, I'm being moved, I'm being moved. Anyway, this is the Porkfolio. For your kids who want to watch it. And if, by the way, if you open it at the bottom, take the money out, it tells you to. So
How much
I would.
is it?
Excuse me? It's like 60 bucks or something. It's also available at Home Depot, etc. There's a whole bunch of these things that uses this wink technology. Now, for more serious sensing, this is my favorite. This is a FLIR camera. So you were measuring bad things. I'm measuring temperature. So for those of you who can see, I can now go in here and see how hot you are. I can read your temperature. I can also use it to just look around here. So here, take a look. So you can see it's a color. It's a FLIR camera. This is, by the way, what they used in the Boston bombing. The police used it, and that's how they found the guy in the boat, because they couldn't see the tarp. But this, you could actually see the heat through the tarp. You'd be surprised at how useful this thing is. I have one of these built into my car, and I happened to, a place upstate New York, I happened to have some work done in the house, and they were supposedly doing some insulation, and I happened to park the car aimed at the house, and I noticed that there was this huge heat leak in the house. Well, it turns out it was seeing the heat leak, and so I told the contractor. He thought, oh, it's all inside the wall. He'll never know. Well, guess what? You can tell. If you're trying to figure out where temperatures are and anything else, so very interesting. This is a military technique that's now being brought to the consumer world, and you can actually take pictures with it. So this is the FLIR camera, and there are different versions of it. And by the way, you can actually shoot videos so it does merging of real video and heat and puts them all together. So that's the FLIR. This is expensive. It's a couple $1,000s. But there is a Kickstarter program that has one of these. It's, I think, 50 bucks. And it uses your phone as a sensor and has the same type of IR sensing. So you're going to see a lot more of these. This is the professional version, but there will be much cheaper versions as well. Now, moving right along, if you have all these sensors, one of the things you might want to do is have some way of reading them. So I have a few watches. I have on my arm. So I've got the Pebble, the Motorola, the Sony, the Qualcomm Talk, the Basis, a couple of Fitbits, the Samsung, the Nike Fuel, and it goes on and on and on. So I've been looking at all of these.
Yeah, which is the best?
Now, so which one is the best? So it's interesting. None of them really do everything. They all have certain attributes, although I've been trying them out different. I can only wear 2 at a time. And I found the one that I came back to was the Pebble. Even though the Pebble doesn't do that much, the reason I like the Pebble is it does what it's supposed to do, which is alert me at phone calls. I found I was missing phone calls because I didn't have my Pebble. I got so used to having the phone ring on here. Although the Samsung had a weird thing happen to me. The other day, I have a lot of phones, as you might imagine, and I normally carry 4 or 5 with me. Actually, speaking of phones, there's a little one here that I like a lot, except it's small, so I can't seem to find it. Well, maybe I won't show you my little phone. It normally goes in my wallet. That's how small it is. I'm sure it's on here. No, it's a little tiny phone. I'll find it in a minute. But anyway, so I'm hearing a phone ring, and I can't figure out for the life of me where this phone is. I'm going around, and no matter where I go, the phone is ringing the same level. And I realized it was my watch that was ringing. I finally figured out how to answer it, and then guess what? It was a spam phone call. So the first phone call I got on my watch was, "You've been selected to receive a government grant," blah, blah, blah. Anyway. But when we talk sensors, we're also talking about sensors for other things, and of course that implies camera sensors and image sensors. And so there are a couple that I like. This is the Blackmagic Super 16 digital cinema camera. Now, not too many years ago, in fact, not too many months ago, getting this quality of a video capability, this is digital cinema, getting this quality, you'd be talking $10,000 to $20,000. It's under $1,000. And this is a full color gamma for digital cinema. So if you want to be a filmmaker and all the rest, you can actually make a film using this device. I actually saw one of them where the cameras, this is the camera part here. This is the camera. The lens is separate. I saw they put a digital cinema, they put a PL mount lens, a lens about this big on it, and this little tiny camera. But this is a company called Black Magic Design. It's from Australia, and they are totally disrupting the broadcast world. But if you're interested in filmmaking, I'd recommend this. But then you've got our friends at Sony who've come up with something also very interesting. And I'll use a Samsung phone here. Again, lots of them. So what this is, well, maybe I won't use a Samsung phone because it's not on. How about using, oh, there we go. So what this is, it's a lens attachment for your phone. So instead of having the phone lens on it, this is a lens attachment for your phone. Now, most of the ones you've seen before actually just simply is an optical, I don't think this phone's on. So let me find another one. Okay, we'll go with a Motorola here. So basically, what it does is, a lot of these lenses are just little optical lenses that go on top of the existing lens. So it's the same imager, it's the same little tiny imager in it. It doesn't really give great quality. But what happens if you want really great quality? Well, you take this, and the first thing you do is, this uses NFC, near field communications. So if I want to pair this, I just bring these two things together, and it will automatically turn itself on. And the lens is now going to connect up to the camera here, and it just did. And it says connecting, and now you can see the lens. I'm moving it around here. But here's what happens. You pull this little part apart here like this, and then you attach this to your camera. And I've now turned my cell phone into a camera with a real lens, real zoom, and so now I have a very high resolution camera. So this is a very interesting concept. So we're adding, the whole idea of adding a cell phone, adding something to it. This is a lens that comes in two sizes, different focal length. I've been using this quite a bit, and it's also interesting because you can now take this and you can stick it in little places, and you can put it anywhere you want because the lens is just Wi-Fiing to the phone. So this is the Sony lens. Now,
I'm sorry, is it Bluetooth or Wi-Fi?
It takes its pictures itself, so it has its own memory card. It uses Wi-Fi, it creates its own Wi-Fi network to the camera so you can see what you're looking at. And then it will then use the cellular's network to share that photo on Instagram, whatever else you want to do. So it's a very interesting combination of these things. By the way, I don't work for any of these companies. I don't endorse the companies. So the fact that I have two Sony devices is just happenstance. But this is interesting. This is an audio recorder. It's a lot of people, they make these little audio recorders, so if you want to get a good recording of something, I'll just put it out here. But what's interesting about this one is that it also, if I remove this cap, it also is a video recorder. So it's an audio and video recorder. And so if you're at the concert and you want to make a recording, most of these devices, the microphones are terrible. So a cell phone is a really nice product, except that it has terrible microphones. Or a camcorder might have, even the DSLRs have good picture quality, but don't have good audio. So this is good audio, so it's got a pair of stereo microphones, so decent microphones, and by way of the picture. So this is if you want to capture something, and it's small enough that it'll fit in your pocket. So this is a very nice little pocket recorder that also happens to do video. It's a couple $100. It just came out, I think, yesterday. So it's a brand new product. But if you're looking for some interesting toy for the holidays.
You could use those for interviews.
You could use this for interviews and things like that.
Fantastic.
And in fact, speaking about journalism, I'm working on a project at the University of Missouri Journalism School on how to use mobile connected devices for connected journalism. And this is one of the ideas that we're looking at. Moving right along, because...
I want one of those.
I want one of
excuse
those.
me? Oh.
I want one of those.
I want one of those.
Yeah, one of those? Okay. Now...
How much are they?
I think it's $240, something, $249? Excuse me? The lens? They come in two flavors. The long lens is $500. The short lens is $200, depending on and they're both, by the way, they're large megapixel cameras on well. Now, I try to bring a little bit of everything for different people, and although I do use a Mac quite a bit, occasionally I do need to use a PC, and I looked around to try and find a laptop I liked, and I ended up with this Lenovo. And the reason I like the Lenovo, it's a nice, SSD. It's a machine with, it's Windows 8, which I'm not sure I like. But it has, you can go in here, you can touch the screen, everything else. But what's interesting about this laptop is I can push this button, and the laptop comes apart. And now I have a full computer. And this is not, some like RT thing. This is a full Windows, Core i7 SSD computer. And it's a very nice little device. And let me turn my caps lock on here. And the reason I brought this out, though, and if you are a fan of the old IBM trackpad, guess what? It has a little red dot on there if you like that. So there's a little red dot if you want it. It also, by the way, you can put it back this way if you want to do presentations. So you can run it backwards.
Problem is Microsoft.
So you can use it and you can do presentations this way. But the reason I brought this out was not so much to show that technology. And what I want to show is another sensor. And that sensor, there's my phone. Here's a little small phone. This is my little tiny phone. It was underneath the laptop. This is a really cool little phone. It's a full phone. It fits in it's the same size as a credit card, a little bit thicker. It goes right in my wallet. But the reason I was going to show this.
Greg, how much is that? How much is your tiny phone?
My tiny phone?
Yeah.
A couple $100. Okay, so here is.
Who's the maker?
It's some Chinese special. It actually, on the back it says, limited edition 084 of 100. So I guess they didn't make very many of them.
Where does it actually transmit your location, your IP address? Where does that go back to?
There's that building outside of Beijing with all those antennas on top of it. I think it might go there. So, talking about sensors, 3D Systems, which makes 3D printers and other things like that, came up with this thing. It's called Sense. And I don't have time to do this, but I was going to do this, and maybe afterwards, I was going to do a map of your head. And make you a Christmas present.
My head?
Yeah, your head. So what this does.
Do Esther's head.
We'll do a head. So here, you can see what's happening here. Hang on. So hang on. Let me put this under here so you can see. So my thing has turned into a. It's turned into a sensor. So I can choose. What do you want to do? A person or a object? Let's do a person. And I want to do a head or the whole object. So a head. So does someone want to stand?
Go ahead, Esther.
Stand over a second. So basically, I won't do the whole thing. You've got to stand steady. And so now, you see, I can do this here, and I can start. No, stand there. And then I start scan. And now 1, 2, 3, and now I go around, and I'm creating a 3D. I've lost it, but anyway, you get the idea. You walk around, and you end up with a 3D model. And when you have the 3D model, you can then fill it in. And when you fill it in, you then send it to your printer and hit print, and I can make a little head of yours.
Oh.
or anything else.
Which isn't creepy.
Yeah, and I was thinking.
But it's not
creepy. I wanted to get those little dogs they have in the car, the bobbleheads.
Bobble dog.
Yeah, I would take those dog heads off, and I was going to get one for each of you for Christmas and put it on it. So if you don't mind, afterwards I'll scan your heads, and we'll have a few of them, and we'll have little presents.
Why, yes, we do mind.
Kara,
when I told my wife I had to practice on this.
That's our entire business model.
That's our new company.
That's our new
company. At the D conference you did for the people who've been there a long time, you did the point dot things.
Yeah.
Well, since you're not with the journal anymore,
right?
So, don't you think it'd be much better to do? We'll do a thing instead of point dot. We'll do bobbleheads.
Give us a call.
Give us a call.
No, I think for people who've been there multiple times.
All ideas.
Oh, okay. Anyway, this is actually this is $300, but having a full 3D scanner for $300, it's hard for me to do it on stage like this. But $300 scanner is really quite amazing, and it really does produce very nice models. And once you do it, it will work with other.
But you need a 3D printer.
You need a 3D printer, but they have a program when you can send it to them, and they'll print it for you and send it to you.
Oh.
So you can buy this, and then you have an option: you print it yourself or send it to them, and they'll print it for you.
Cool.
So that's pretty cool. It's 3D Systems. And since we're in the business world here for a second, I was going to use this to show how the. I'm going to use this to show how the laptop worked wirelessly, but unfortunately they couldn't get the HDMI thing to work properly, so I'll have to show it like this. This is a product, so if you are in an office and you want to share your computer, you know, there are a lot of ways you can do it with Apple TV and even Chromecast, but the problem is they all require applications on the device. And it's very hard to go cross platform, and you have to load software in many cases. So what happens if you have an office and you just want people to come in and share? And this is a product called ClickShare. It's made by a company called Barco. Barco is, you know them from, they do all the very large venue projectors at big events, but they also are making this new thing. And I was looking at how do you make a totally wireless conference room. In other words, how many of you have conference rooms and you have all those wires coming out of the table? I want to get rid of all the wires, so it's all hanging. So what happens is you have these little pucks, and these little pucks plug into your Linux machine, your PC, your Mac, any device that has USB, it'll plug in. It does not require special information for, you know, administrator password, et cetera, to use. And then when you plug it in, it will light up and it'll turn red when you want to use it. And you can have, on the larger version, you have 64 of these. So I was thinking it from the educational perspective.
One of your devices is calling you.
Something's calling?
See, it's blue right there, phoning you.
What's calling?
Right here.
Something's calling. It's
There's
this.
a man whose pants buzz.
It's this. It's somebody's got a phone call.
It's mine.
Would you like to conduct your
I'll
call?
take it later.
So if you're doing collaboration, you put these little pucks on the table. People plug in, and if you first person who pushes it, they get the screen. Second person will split it into dual screen. Third person will do 3 screens. 4 will do 4. And then the fifth person somebody has to knock somebody off. If you want to take over, you just hold down your button longer. But for collaboration, it's actually very cool. And if you have the bigger, this is a small version, this is a bigger version. The bigger version will actually do 2 screens, and it'll have up to 64 pucks. So I'm looking at that for education for one-to-one, because kids can go into school and plug these things in, and you don't have to worry about.
How does this differ from the steel case wireless puck?
They're somewhat similar, but this does not require any installation. You just plug it in, it just works.
Okay.
So that's the nice thing about it. So it's called the ClickShare, and it's made by Barco. Now back to the days of entertainment. We've been talking about all these devices things, and mentioned Chromecast, which I happen to like a lot. And so I decided to put together a kit for myself that when I travel, what should I have with me when I travel so that I can enjoy my experience at home on the road. And I had no idea that TiVo was going to be a sponsor tonight. So this is just happenstance. And again, I'm not representing any of these folks. But TiVo has come out. I feel weird because I feel like I'm doing a sponsored thing for them. But TiVo has come out. This has come out with something called the Romeo. And a Romeo, first thought is, oh, it's another DVR. But it's not. The difference between Romeo is Romeo, as its name implies, means that you can roam with it. So I can now go, and we're going to unlock this. And there is there's my DVR. And if I want to watch something, I can watch it on the road. Now, I can just go in here, and here is last night's Watch on iPad. And there's last night's evening news from NBC. And I can go, and I have multiple TiVos. This thing happens to have so this has, the Romeo comes with 6 tuners, so you can have 6 different things running. So you basically put one of them in your home. You can buy these little ones, these little TiVo minis, and stick them on other TVs if you want, or just use iPads or anything, or a TV or anything you want as your second TV. But the best part about it is, I'm no longer locked into doing that at home. Now, Dish Network bought Sling, and Sling introduced at the D conference, if I recall.
That's right.
And Sling is great, and if you have Dish, they do that. But what happens if you don't have dish? What happens because if you have a dish, you have this capability.
Because TiVo will work with multiple cable networks.
We'll work with cable, Verizon, satellite, everybody else. So, you know, a lot of people have thought that TiVo is going the way of BlackBerry, but this is actually a pretty interesting product, and I use it quite a bit. And you can even download them on here, so if you want to be on the plane where they won't allow you to stream, you can watch content on the plane. And of course, I can program everything, and I can change the programming, and it will also talk to multiple DVRs. So that's the TiVo Romeo. Now, the other thing about TV, you know, we're talking about Chromecast, and one of the problems is how do you carry that 50-inch TV around? Well, here's the answer. A couple of years ago, I brought a Sony version. Zeiss came out with a little bit better version. These are OLED glasses, and now I have a equivalent of about a 100-inch TV set, and we'll do stereo if you want. But this will plug into your iPod, into your, or actually it'll plug into your iPad or your phone or whatever, or HDMI, and you have the ability of watching things. And so if I want to watch things from my TiVo, I can just watch them on here. So on the plane, if I want to watch a big screen, I can do that.
How much, how much are they?
These are about $600. And they're OLED. And what's interesting about them, so some people wear glasses, and you know, like me. And what they have is they have these little knobs here. Let me show you. These little knobs right here. And each one of them allows you to adjust your eye individually. So you can adjust each eye. So you just close one eye and adjust the other one, close the other eye and adjust it. So even if your eyes are you know, not 100%, you can adjust it perfectly for the vision here.
What does it simulate? What size screen at what
It's about a 70 to 80-inch screen.
As if you were sitting what?
As if you were sitting, you know, proper distance away from it. It's a very enveloping thing. And there's another version, there's another capability of this which adds a motion sensor so you can do the tracking. So as your head goes around, it will track. The other big use of it is for the dentist. The dentists are using these, and when you're sitting there and they're operating on your teeth, you put this on, and so that's another
Greg,
use of it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you wear those and the watches and a couple of the other things,
yeah, that little meter would go berserk.
Would the average person wearing those things ever get laid again?
Can I plead the fifth on that?
I'm just, you know, how does this impact society? That's what.
Well, it's you know, and you know, it also, by the way, the Chromecast will plug in to that, so I can plug that right into the Chromecast.
Yeah.
So I do
if you
carry
have the Chromecast plugged in on top of wearing that,
right?
What does that do to your odds of actually getting it?
Well, you know, it's a funny thing you should mention it, because talking about sensors, again, if you have kids and they don't like to use their toothbrush, this is a internet-enabled toothbrush. So this will report whether you're brushing your teeth properly or not, so your parents can see whether you're doing it, and they can actually reward you, and you can have different ones, and then you can create games between your kids as to who brushes their teeth the longest. And if it doesn't run long enough, it'll start flashing blue on you. But that's not as much fun as this. This is an internet-controlled fork. And, and I'm accused of eating fast.
We've written about
and this is designed to stop you from eating fast, because if it detects that you're eating too fast, it starts to vibrate. If it vibrates enough, your food falls off, so you can't eat it. So this is a Frenchman who was gaining too much weight. He has a fork. It's called the Happy Fork, H-A-P-I. And this will measure how much you are eating, how fast you're eating, and report back, of course, to the authorities in China as to what's going on.
Thank you.
Now, another area that's kind of interesting is if you're in your home and you want something. This is a mirror. You know, I look at myself in the mirror. You might think this goes on your dashboard or so, but it's got a USB cable in. And you might ask why it's a USB cable. Well, for that, I need to get my trusty laptop, and I plug this USB in here, and what you'll see is it's actually a keyboard. And this is an illuminated keyboard. So if you're worried about having an ugly keyboard,
it was on for a minute. No,
oh, sorry.
Not, but
there you go. It's got haptic feedback. It clicks and everything else. So this is a fashion keyboard. So if you want something that looks nice, if you have a computer around, like maybe this tablet, here's a keyboard to go with it. I find it kind of nice. Excuse me?
When you could be
Who makes it? It's, you know, I think it's about a couple $100. It's called Mineba, M-I-N-E-B-E-A.
Carrie,
It's
your
called
children
Cooley.
want that.
Yeah, not so much.
It's a kind of cool keyboard. All right, moving right along. So the other area that's happening is gaming. And this is, if you're a gamer, this is an interesting concept in looking at the future of things. This is called the NVIDIA Shield. And what this is it's basically taking a cell phone and marrying it with a gaming console. So it's got the very high-powered GPUs that NVIDIA makes, and it's an output 1080p, and it's a nice high-quality video. But this is a full gaming platform using the combination of CPU and GPU to get very good gameplay. Interesting product. Lots of games available. Android, it's basically an Android device. Oh, by the way, it's also your portable movie player. So if you like to have your portable movies, etc., and a music player, it's a very cool thing. But in the gaming space, there's another one that's even more fun. And I'm noticing down here, we have the cheering section for games. Has any of you heard about these? These are called Anki cars.
Yeah.
And these are little cars. And they're real, obviously, but they're played on a video game on your phone. So there's a track. We don't have room to roll it out, but there's a large track that has special ink. And then you play the games, and you race these around the track. They're battery-powered, and they race around like regular slot cars. And they follow the track. But because they're connected to your cell phone, you can add powers to them. So you can add points, and you can add weapons. And so all of a sudden, it's the virtual meets the physical. So the physical things are driving around, but then you're shooting virtual weapons at them, etc. So nobody gets hurt, but it's actually kind of fun. It's called Anki cars. And this is, I think you're going to see a lot more of this, where the physical and the virtual start mixing, like what you see with the basketball, like that bow you saw here. This is a racing car thing. So it's something that you might want to look at. I understand they've been selling fairly well, so you may want to, if you want to get one for your kids. These little car cases, this is where you charge them. They go right on here, and they charge. Again, not enough time to show them off here. Now, the other area of gaming is, I think, we just had the PS4 and the Xbox One. I think it's probably the last of the console games because of things like the NVIDIA Shield. But there are also a lot of people coming into games. This is a gaming product, so it's a gamer, and it's very similar in concept to your Chrome stick. So here is the stick. You plug this into your TV, and this becomes the controller. And now here's how you play the games. So it sticks in here, and so this becomes your gaming console, and it comes this little case here. And then you can use that to play games. Same idea, the processing is in the stick. And they're not the only ones doing it. There are lots of other little devices. This is called the Pocket TV. Same idea. It's another one of these little things. Basically, it's an HDMI connector. That's the hole on the back, by the way. The HDMI connector, you plug that in, and these things will work. Now, when you're out there having all this stuff, of course. Actually, let me do one thing before that. This actually is probably one of the more interesting boxes that we have here. It doesn't look like very much. It's sort of like a little heart-shaped thing. It's only got one connector on it for power. So you might say, well, what is this thing? Well, it is a box with 7 radios in it. And you say, well, what do you mean 7 radios? Does it get, FM, AM, what is it? No, actually it has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, Z-Wave, all these devices that communicate, all these, the basketball and the sensors and all the rest, they all send out waves. What this is aggregates them all together in a single app. And so now with the app, I can go in here, and now I can control all sorts of things in my home. Instead of having to have separate apps, there's one app aggregated through here. And let me see if I can find it's called Revolve. So now, all of a sudden, you start seeing, these are all the options I have to control stuff in my home. So it talks to the Nest thermostat, It talks to the Sonos system, another company from the D conference. It talks to the Yale locks. It talks to the Insteon light switches. It talks to a lot of different things, and it aggregates it all together. So it's called the Revolve. It just came out, and if you have more than one of these systems, excuse me?
It's similar to the smart
Except that
things.
this doesn't care about the devices. Smart Things needs to talk to smart things. This just goes out with all these different radios and says, I don't care the protocol. So if this one's on Insteon, this one's an X10, this one's a Nest, this one's a Wi-Fi, this one's a Bluetooth, it aggregates them all together. So it's a central hub. Put this together with TiVo, and you might have something very interesting. Okay, moving right along, the next thing, so is nepotism allowed? I mean, a little thing. This is something my son invented, so I felt compelled to show. He was in college.
Is nepotism allowed? Look
Yeah.
at the panel.
So my son was in college, and he noticed that when people had headphones in their ears and they took them off to meet with somebody, the headphones were dangling all over the place. So he came up with the idea of clicking them together with magnets. So they form. So A, they don't tangle, but B, you can just put it around your neck, and it creates like a necklace for you. And he patented it. Drove me nuts because he got 3 patents in the time it took me to get 1. But anyway, he got it patented, and it went on the shelves just recently. So it's licensed. This is licensed through earbuds. There are a couple different versions of them. But it's actually, I find it pretty clever. When he first told me about it, I said, oh, come on, why would I want to do that? But it turns out it's actually pretty clever. They snap together, and so when you're wearing them, you just snap them together, and you can snap them onto your lapel, etc. So if you like earbuds, I would recommend the earbuds with magnetics from Patrick Harper. Moving on, though, and talking about headphones, I travel a lot, as I've mentioned, and so therefore having some form of noise-canceling headphones is important. The ones I'm using right now are the Parrot Zic, which is what these are. Now, the reason I like these is because I'll pull it back a little bit. The reason I like these headphones are because, first of all, they're wireless, or they can be wired if you want. Secondly, they use a touch control, so basically the way you control just moving your hand up and down on it. They're noise canceling, and they also will act as a microphone, so you can actually have telephone conversations with them. So it's a full function thing. But as an audiophile, the problem with these headphones, or any of these noise canceling headphones, I don't care which ones you take, to make the noise go away, they destroy the sound. So what's interesting, these guys give you an equalizer, so you can actually try to put the sound back the way you like it. So these are nice. But, and for the airplane, it's still the best way to go. But if you're not on the airplane and you have an opportunity, then I have another thing. And the other thing is these headphones. These are Sennheiser Momentums. And for the money, and it's a couple $100, they come in 2 flavors, on-ear and over-ear. These are really good sounding headphones. And they're nice and small, so you can carry them with you. I don't recommend them on the plane because they don't isolate the low frequency noise of the plane. But if you they're decent for it, but it's not the same as the noise canceling. But on the other hand, sonic purity, these sounds really good. Now, of course, if you do that, you want to play some music on it. But the problem with that is, of course, you can't hear this because I'm having headphones. If you come up later, you can listen to them. So I brought some speakers. And where are my speakers? Here are my speakers. And let's plug my speakers into my music player. And you can hear how this really wonderful music player works. Maybe. So the Lion sleeps tonight, but in all seriousness, this is a very high-end audio player. And if you're into very high quality audio, this is a $1,200 player, so it's not a simple thing, but it's way higher
With or
quality.
without the speakers?
Without, well, the speakers are extra. It plays off SD cards. It plays all the audio formats you can think of, and including the uncompressed, very high resolution ones. And there's a location called, called HD Tracks, a site you go to HD Tracks. You can buy your songs uncompressed. And you take that along with the headphones, and you have this little player, and you'd be amazed at how good the sound sounds.
Who makes the player?
It's a company called Hi-Fi Man, and there's a site that's Hi-Fi Man. You can get this, or they also give you a, wherever it might be, yes, they also have in-ears. I'm not a big fan of in-ears, but they make wonderful in-ears. They're even balanced audio for the audiophiles in the room, so these are called the RE600s. And the combination is quite pricey, but the quality of sound is very, very nice. So, so finally, the next thing I want to show you here is a little app, and I'm very much into. So let me unlock this thing. You know, I don't want Siri. I want my fingerprint to work. Okay, we'll do the old-fashioned way. And let me go into, get out of that, and we'll go over here to this. This is a light bulb, and is it not going to, oh, I got to connect my light bulb. This is, you know, the demo gods are never happy here. Let me see, I'll just take this off. This is a bulb. Oh. Is it not plugged in? That's no good. This one works. Plug the bulb. Now that one works. Ah, there we go. Okay, so there's the bulb, and it's an LED bulb, and you notice there's difference in color. This one's a white one, this one's a yellow one. But the yellow one here, I can go in here, and hopefully, if it's connected, well, theoretically, I can go in here. Bulbo 1 test. Let's go here. Anyway, what it does, it Bluetooths to the bulb, which is kind of fun. So instead of having to have a hub like the Hue bulbs I showed last year, this bulb works directly. And I guess we have to see whether Bluetooth is on here. It is on. Okay. Well, I guess we're not going to show you how the thing changes color. You'll have to trust me that it does change color. But here's the interesting thing about this bulb. These bulbs are electric. And one thing about them is that they need to be plugged in. And so I'm going to do something that you don't normally do. I'm going to create a failure on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug the system here. Thank you. And notice this bulb is still on. And we're not plugged into anything. The bulb is still playing. And in fact, I can use the light switch, and I can turn the bulb off, and I can flip the switch, and it goes back on. Except we're plugged into absolutely nothing. So I saw this at a trade show. It's not a product yet. The inventor happens to be in the room, so if you want to meet him, I'm sure he'll come up later and talk to you. But think about this as emergency lighting in your home. So you screw these bulbs in. They go on and off like regular light bulbs, but if the power drops, you can still turn them on and off. And guess what? Your light switches will still turn them on and off, even though there's no electricity in your home. So they'll last for a number of hours. Obviously, they have a battery in them. But I thought this was a very clever idea. I believe he's doing a Kickstarter project, and this will be coming out soon. But, I mean, how many people have seen a light bulb that you can turn on and off where it's plugged into thin air? So that's sort of my presentation. But we had a little duet we had planned here.
Oh, yes.
And so when I heard the Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, I said, well, you know, we really ought to do something here with the music. So I have my, my speakers here, maybe. Oh, well, hang on. Are they not playing?
So we were going to do a duet.
Yes.
Let's see. Let's see. Where is he?
Well, I'll go back to the beginning.
Let's see if we can get this to go work.
Go back.
Oh, wait a second.
Okay.
Okay, wait. Now,
Wait, ready?
1,
2, 3.
What you are, up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky.
Twinkle, twinkle, little one, how I wonder what you are. Thank you.
That was great.
So, we've seen lots of products, 92% of them from Greg tonight. And thank God for that. Thank you, Greg. And thank you, Wojcicki family and Kara. There was a famous person who lived not too far from here, many of you know who I'm talking about, who would also sometimes show amazing products. And he had a habit of finishing or appearing to finish, and then he would say this, but there's one more thing. And so I'm standing up here to say, there's one more thing. And I need some help here from my assistant, Ina Fried, for the one more thing. This is the brilliant Ina Fried from the All Things D staff. Happy birthday, Kara.
Thank you.
It's a creepy one.
Thank you, Walt. And again, a round of applause for everyone. Oh, I have a cake, too. All right, how do I start? Thanks. No singing. Thank you very much. I'm super, super old. Have a great night. Thank you. No.
Happy
birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Kara. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Just want to, on behalf of Churchill Club, audience, sponsors, thank you so much. We know you have plenty of demands on your time, and we really appreciate that you came to spend the evening with us. We wish you all the luck in the world in your future endeavors. In fact, to help with that, we'd like to present you with a little gift tonight. For our hosts, Walt and Kara, we have jumbo Japanese Maneki Neko Lucky Cats. They are programmed specially to bring you comfort and luck next year, so please keep them close by. And for you, Greg, because you are such...
I wanted the pork bank or whatever.
Because you're such an amazing gem and the best gadget aficionado in the universe, we have for you this precious gold lucky cat. And Esther, Ann, and Susan, here are your special lucky cats. We trust they will work hard for you in the year ahead to produce a surplus of luck and good fortune. The complete list of gadgets, we'll do our best to publish it on our Facebook page soon. And one more thing, if you find an envelope taped to the bottom of your chair, you have won Nuance's Dragon speech recognition software. Congratulations to the winners. You can pick up your prize in the registration area. You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next year. Thank you so much. This is a goofy gift.